Welcome back to Smile More Decor. It is getting chilly outside. It has been the 20s where we live, so I have the perfect project for you guys to work on today. Today we're going to be making a faux fur rug. Oh, I love the softness of faux fur. Now this is going to be a no-sew. You don't have to worry about sewing or anything like that. And you're only going to need a few things, okay? So take a look. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to comment below if you tried this project or if you guys have any feedback for me. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see some of our awesome videos that are going to be coming out soon. Thank you. So let's get started. First, we're going to get a non-slip mat. You can get this at Walmart or a craft store for pretty cheap. You're going to need to find a faux fur fabric, something for the top of your rug. And for the center cushioning, I'm using this old blanket I've been meaning to recycle, but some alternatives could be cotton or linen fabric if you have extra hanging around, nice and thick. You could also use some of the cotton quilt batting, double or triple up though if you want your rug extra plush, depends on how thick you want it. You'll also need craft scissors. I do recommend a rotary cutter too, just to make things a little easier on some parts, and a fabric adhesive. This is really good for a non-slip mat. You can also use the aerosol ones they have in the store. Just make sure whichever one you select works for the material you're using. Now what I'm going to do first is lay out my top layer of the rug, and I'm going to line it up with the non-slip mat underneath. This is going to help us so that we can cut the lining to fit, and this is when your rotary cutter is going to come in handy. Just make sure that it's as lined as you want it to be, everything is straight, and then just start cutting into that non-slip mat. With these mesh ones, you can follow along the lines. You'll see the little grid lines, which makes it a lot easier to cut in a straight line so you don't damage your fabric. See ya! Now I'm going to gracefully knee walk on out of here, and we are going to set up for our next part. So go ahead and move both your mat and your fur out of the way. What we're going to do is set up our center lining. So whatever you're using for the middle of your rug, that plush that you're using, whether it's an old blanket or that cotton batting, line that up. You're going to take your non-slip mat and make sure that the skid side that protects it from slipping is facing up. You're going to line this up as much as you can, as close as you can, because again, we're going to have to trim whatever the lining is to now fit our non-slip mat. And I'm pulling a little over the edges and leaving extra at the top because there is some parts of the grid that are not non-slip. It's just like a cotton mesh edging that you want to get rid of. Just make sure that your lining and the mat are straight and there's no lumps. Maybe you can find a more graceful way to do this than me, but there you go. Bring out your fabric adhesive. What we're going to do is attach the non-slip mat to our center lining prior to cutting. This is to make sure, because usually our center fabrics are more soft and more prone to moving when we cut. So if we secure our non-slip mat to it first, then we make sure that we get a good cut and it's not going to slip around on us and we have a bunch of uneven edges and a crazy looking center. But if you want to do that prior, go ahead, because no one's going to really see it. But for me, this is easier. Now we can cut, my favorite part. And please don't freak out, guys, because I'm cutting this on the floor. I promise you it's not damaging anything. So you want to make sure you just cut it in line with your non-slip mat all the way down. Once that's complete, I'm going to use my fabric scissors and I'm going to cut that cotton mesh edging off, but I'm going to make sure that the center lining is a little bit overlapping from the mat. Once you're done with that, you're going to let that dry. My adhesive took about 3 to 4 hours, but please follow the directions on whatever adhesive you're using. Now me and my little Grogu feet are going to get the top lining, which is our faux fur fabric. And I want you to take it and lay it down face down, so the lining of your faux fur should be up. Grab your completed bottom piece and go ahead and start lining it up with your rug. You can choose to have your top lining overlapping the bottom, or you can line it up, whichever you prefer. I'm having mine overlap a little because I like the look of that better. Now this should have your non-slip should be on top, because that is going to be the bottom. So we're basically going to connect it upside down. So once you have it straightened and you like the way it looks, go ahead and get that glue. I'm actually going to be using this Fabric Fusion. It's kind of like a gel glue. It is optional, which is why I didn't include it on your supplies needed. You can continue to use your adhesive fabric, whichever one you used. I specifically like this one when adjoining two pieces of fabric versus two pieces of different material. So what I'm doing here is securing one edge so I can flip the bottom layer up, and I'm going to go top to bottom, pulling down the layers as I glue the bottom. Don't be shy with your glue now. Make sure that you put enough on there. It may take a little longer to dry, but you don't want this sucker coming loose when your kids are playing on it, or maybe you kick it around or need to move it around constantly. Make sure that glue is secured and use as much as you need to. Again, after finishing and getting everything glued down, you're going to have to wait for it to dry completely. Check it and make sure you covered every area. You can always trim your rug and trim your mat as needed after the glue has dried. Finally, it's done! So we're going to flip it over and just test out that non-slip feature and see how soft it is. My favorite part. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And good night. Now my final rug is about 5 feet long. It's for my son's room and he loved it. Be sure to stay tuned for our next video.